Hey
that
guys, today
over the
over
weekend,
I'm at
over
Rise
the
Up.
next few moments,
Enjoy the video.
that your heart, your mind, your soul, your body will begin to transition to Jesus being your greatest desire. Jesus is why we do what we do. Jesus is and always will be the central theme and focus, not just for this conference, but for the kingdom of God. For every person that says they are a Jesus follower, He is the central theme and focus of our lives. And so we are so glad you're here this weekend. Before we get started, I just got a whole lot of thank yous to say. Kevin Booth, why don't you stand there?
Oh, man.
So this is Kevin Booth. Kevin leads Turning Point Church. We are in his house. This is the Lord's house, but he's been the steward of the house. But listen, don't mess up his house. Turning Point, Kevin, and their eldership have been so gracious with our conference. They have given us resources and people and have problem solved and worked so hard. I mean, a lot of everything you see here is them wanting to make this conference great for us. And so, Kevin, to you and your eldership team, I just want to thank you guys so much. There's a lot of players with Turning Point. Caleb Booth is the director of our worship. He is part of the Mount Rushmore of Rise Up Youth Conference. Thank you, Caleb. Julian Herrera, which you'll see. He's in the back. He'll always be doing something. Julian, thank you so much, bro. You made us look cool. You've done our social media. I mean, you've been amazing, bro. Thank you so much. All of our sound volunteers, our worship people. Georgina Viestra, who is ministering. Jordan Romero is leading our small group teams. Chloe Romero, who has handled registration amazingly. And all of the team from Oz, who's been working hard, all of the volunteers from Turning Point, who've been working so hard, and youth leaders. If you are a youth leader, if you brought a youth group with you this weekend, I would love for you to stand. Because we want to recognize you. Because I know I'm going to mess this up. I always forget a youth group. I do not want to do that. And so I'm going to point at you, and I want you to tell me what youth group you brought with you, what church, and we want to just thank you for being here. So listen, we're not making noise for our church. We're making noise for every church. So here we go. Shout out your church. Yes, you. Upward Call Church in Chino. Grace's Living Church in Upland. We shout you out. Westside Church Pastor. Restoration LA. Josh. Southland Church in Memphis. You're gonna have to shout it out. Generation Church in Cerritos, California. Westside Believers Church. There are so many other churches that were listed. I know there's people from the Gathering here in Chino. I know there's people from Calvary Chapel over here. If there's any other churches, you can just shout it out. We just think Turning Point Church. Awesome. Hey, thank you. So, listen, for the sake of time, I got to speed things up. I have the absolute privilege of introducing an amazing dude, a friend of mine. You might know him. He plays soccer for a Major League Soccer team in Los Angeles, California called Los Angeles Football Club. He's a starting defender, center back, and he's also plays for the U.S. men's national team representing our country, the United States. So, if I can get some big rise up love, and he's got some autographed LAFC balls to chuck out if you make a noise loud enough. For Walker Zimmerman. So so listen, he's going to be led by the Spirit. Your hoots and hollering are not going to do nothing. Listen, it is an amazing thing to have this guy with us. We talked over lunch and said, hey, he's worked with young people in the past. He has a heart and a passion to communicate the things of God. He doesn't stand up here as a Major League Soccer player. He stands up here as someone who loves Jesus and who loves young people and wants to see the best for young people. So, hey, why don't you guys give him that kind of love?
What is up, guys? Let's get started. Man, worship is such a beautiful thing. Oh my goodness. That was unbelievable. You may want to know what's it like scoring a goal, playing for your national team. I'll tell you what, it pales in comparison when you're in a building with other believers and the Spirit's at work. So let's do that. So I want to give you guys a brief overview of who I am, how I got to where I am today, and that way you can know me, and then we're going to talk about making a stand. You guys have some great things planned this weekend. I'm kind of jealous I have a game, otherwise I'd be taking some archery shots at you guys and loving every minute of it. But I grew up a pastor's kid. I'm the youngest of three. I have two older brothers. And we lived in a neighborhood where everyone was athletic and older than me. And so we had a bunch of older guys down the street in the cul-de-sac. We'd be playing pickup baseball every day after school, basketball, soccer, football. And we played all of these sports, but I was the youngest. And so what that meant was I had something to prove. And I always had to be the underdog, be the smallest one out there, like, come on guys, like let me play. And so what that did for me as a competitor, I mean, that has completely got me to where I am, having to outwork everyone else, having to again, prove my worth and being in those situations. And so that formed me as a competitor. The other side of me was I'm a pastor's kid. So I grew up in and around the church every Sunday, and my Sunday looked like showing up early, going and playing some solitaire, some pinball on my dad's computer, eating some Dunkin' Donuts, hanging out like I owned the place. And then I'd listen to my dad speak in the front row, and afterwards I'd have to wait until the very last person left who was talking with my dad. And so we'd be playing hide and seek in the church. We would take the heavy paper that the bulletins were made of at the time, and we'd go to the front of the sanctuary, and we'd see the back wall all the way over there. We'd have paper airplane competitions trying to hit the back wall. And that was a Sunday for me. That was a Sunday growing up. So I was always around the church. And what I want to say is, well, that growing up in a competitive neighborhood formed me as a competitor. This also, as a pastor's kid, helped form me spiritually. But then I look at weekends like conferences and spiritual retreats and the kind of thing that you guys are doing this weekend, and I think back at, man, those were some of the greatest weekends of my life. Yeah. And I missed so many opportunities as well having to do sports. And so it made me treasure the weekends that I had, getting away with my church community, getting close to the Lord and focusing on that relationship. So Amen. While there's all these fun activities, and everyone's kind of touched on it already, I mean, what a great opportunity you have in front of you to grow closer with your friends, fellow believers from other churches, make lasting relationships, but ultimately the goal is to grow your relationship with Jesus. So, yeah, I mean, I'm so excited to be here. Again, thank you, Jody, for this opportunity. I mean, it's awesome. And I've got to meet some pretty cool South Africans, some Australians. I know my accent isn't going to be quite as good as theirs, but I hope you so. Again, the theme for the weekend is making a stand. And so when Jody told me that theme, I was like, okay, making a stand, like, where does that lead me? And so I racked my brain, and it led me to a toilet seat in Tuscaloosa, Alabama when I was 14 years old. You're like, what is he talking about? Who is this guy? So, Tuscaloosa, it's hot, it's in the summer, I'm 14 years old, I'm playing for the Georgia ODP team. So it's like the state team, and we're playing other states from around the Southeast, trying to get noticed by national team scouts. And we played a game in the morning, and it didn't go well. Our goalie, unfortunately, had some terrible mistakes, led to 2 or 3 goals, and I mean, he had an absolute shocker. And we lost the game, and we were a good team, and so everyone was frustrated, complaining. And a couple hours later, I find myself on the toilet seat in Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And I want you to picture 4 stalls. We got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm in the last stall. I walk in, I don't know who's in the first stall. Second and third are my teammates. So we're sitting there in the quiet of our bathroom stalls, I'm just chilling, quiet, just like looking at my phone. And all of a sudden, the next 2 stalls start chirping. And I'm like, man, our goalie today, like, we call him Jeff. I was like, what is Jeff doing today? Like, he lost us the game. And then the other one chimes in, like, yeah, dude, I can make that save. I don't even play goalie. Something along those lines. And at that point, I'm sitting there, and I stop what I'm doing, and I'm like, no, like, we're a team, we can't be talking like this. So I said, guys, like, come on, like, we're all a team, this is a team sport, 11 guys on the field. I don't care, if you had a bad game, we're gonna stick together, we're gonna keep going for it. Something generic. And after that moment, I didn't think anything of it for the next 2 days. Just like finished what I was doing and left. And so 2 or 3 days later, we're driving home, my dad and I. He happened to be a chaperone on the trip. And so we're driving home, and he's sitting next to me, and he's like, son, I am so proud of you. And if you know my dad, that's pretty common for him to just get teary-eyed and be like, I just love you so much, I'm so proud of you. And so I was like, okay, like, you say it all the time, and I was like, what, like, did something happen, like, to make you proud? And he's like we said, we call him Jeff. He's like, Jeff's dad, who's also a chaperone on the trip, just came up to me before he left, and he told me that he was in the stall, pooping, next to you and I guess some other teammates. And he heard how you stuck up for his kid, and how it just meant the world to him. So what I want to say and lead into is this idea of boldness, and this idea of taking risks and saying things, making a stand. And what I want to say is it's oftentimes uncomfortable. Oftentimes you're going to not want to do it, you're going to risk embarrassment, you're going to risk and jeopardize friendships, and it's not easy. And then I also want you to think of how easy it is sometimes in the seclusion of the bathroom stall. No one's looking. Oftentimes, even in school, I'd be like letting it rip in the bathroom stall because no one knows who it is in there. Obviously, I'd wait till they left, but whatever. But the idea that they're in this secluded bathroom and they're able to say whatever they want because they're hidden. And so in our world, what do we hide behind? Our phones. We're sitting there on social media, on Twitter, Instagram, and we're messaging our friends like, man, can you believe what Susie wore to school today? Oh my goodness. And we're just talking, we're just chirping with each other. And it's a joke. Like, why are we joining in on this conversation and joining in even more when we know that people don't know what's going on? So my challenge to you as you move forward is, okay, 1, eliminate those things in general about talking, and especially behind the seclusion of your phones about other people. Make a stand for what's right, stand for justice. And so that's a big point, leading into the question of what does it mean to stand for Jesus in an anti-Jesus culture? So what does it mean to stand for Jesus in an anti-Jesus culture? And so we're going to go straight to the Bible and see what the Bible has to say about it. Isaiah 61:8. For I, the Lord, love justice. I hate robbery and wrongdoing. Okay, so what are we called to stand for? Justice. What are we called to stand against? Robbery, wrongdoing. Boom, it's right there in one verse. It tells us. And so later this weekend, you might hear this story from the book of Daniel about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, and how they are faced with this decision to make. King Nebuchadnezzar puts up an idol, a gold idol, and when the music plays, they're supposed to worship and fall on their knees and and worship this idol. And they know, as believers, oh, the first of the 10 Commandments, like, no other gods before me. And so when this happens and everyone else is bowing around them, what do? They make a stand. They're like, no, I'm not doing this, I'm not supposed to. And so what's interesting as well is sometimes making a stand doesn't even require any specific actions. And sometimes it's going to call for actions. And so they were noticed by King Nebuchadnezzar because of their refusal to bow down. And so I found that many times conversations that I've had about Jesus come as a result of my actions. And so what that looks like for me is growing up, soccer team. I played on the same youth soccer team for probably 7 or 8 years. These guys became some of my best friends. I have 2 coming out from Atlanta tomorrow for the game. And growing up, it's, you get to 14, 15, 16 years old, high school starts coming around, different temptations are introduced, whether it's partying, drinking, drugs, and that we were growing up together, same age, and they took a notice of my actions. I was like, no, I don't want to be a part of that. No, it's okay, I don't believe I should be doing that. And so at the time, sure, maybe you'll get ribbed, oh, you're such a goody, whatever. And then a funny thing started happening as we got older, as we started to mature. We left for college, and so we weren't on the same team anymore. Everyone kind of went all over the country. And then slowly and steadily, my phone started to ring. Maybe 1 month it's this guy, another month it's this guy. And they're saying, man, I'm struggling. I'm around a bunch of community, around teammates, but I feel lonely. What do you believe in? What's going on? And so the point here is your actions can lead other people to asking you the question, why? Why are you resisting this? Why are you talking like that? Why do you even go to church? And the thing is, your actions lead to the question why, and then the question why leads to your opportunity to then go and express your faith. So sometimes it's not the direct, hey man, let's talk about Jesus, and sometimes that's okay. But the other side is reflect yourself in a way that makes people ask questions. Ask the question why. And then when they do, that's where the boldness comes in. And we say, man, I'm going to tell you about Jesus. And that's happened again. Same club team. A kid tore his ACL in the middle of the game. And I was like, guys, let's get down on a knee. Let's pray for him. And guys still talked about that. Years later, it's oh my goodness, that was such a cool moment. And then similarly, now at LAFC, I get to carpool with some of my teammates. And, we might not have the same beliefs, whether it's religious, politics, whatever it is, but conversations happen. And it's a slow process, and it's things that don't happen immediately, but I tell you, there are so many things that they ask, well, why do you do this? And it's well, my faith tells me this is why I do this. So I want to encourage you in that as well.
Good. Excellent. Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm going to move in and talk about boldness specifically. And the definition for boldness is the willingness to take risks and act innovatively, to exude confidence or courage, the opposite of fearfulness. And so, like I said, we're ignoring the risk of sticking out when we act boldly. We're ignoring the possibility of losing a friendship or ruffling some feathers. And then boldness can come at a great cost. And so that leads me to Acts 6 and 7. It's our first Christian martyr, Stephen. And he's going to the high priests and the elders. And he's saying, you guys betrayed and murdered Jesus. And he's proclaiming this to them and speaking about their injustice. And he's doing it with a pure heart, knowing that, man, the consequences, I could face death. And sure enough, they take him out into the city and they begin to stone him. And as this is happening, he cries out to the Lord and he said, please, Lord, just do not hold this sin against them. Talk about doing things in a pure heart. And so it's also recognizing your motive of why are you doing this. Make sure it's spirit-led, make sure it's righteous and it's pure in your heart. And then along with that, boldness comes from relying on the Holy Spirit to empower us. And I hope a lot of you have felt that moment where it starts to empower you and you're getting called to do something. And my prayer for you is that we just start embracing those whispers those urgings of the Spirit, that we would just boldly walk into it, walk into what the Lord is saying, what He's asking us to do. In our natural fleshly instincts, sometimes that's not what it is, right? Like, you can be so timid, like, Lord, are you serious? I don't know about this one. And I just pray that we can continue to walk in that, myself included, because there are countless times where I know I haven't obeyed those promptings. And so what the Bible says about this, Galatians 5:17 says, the desires of the flesh are against the Spirit, and the desires of the Spirit are against the flesh. For these are opposed to each other, to keep you from doing the things you want to do. And then bear with me as I read some from Romans 8 along the same lines. Those who live according to the flesh have their mind set on what the flesh desires, but those who live in accordance with the Spirit have their mind set on what the Spirit desires. The mind governed by the flesh is death, but the mind governed by the Spirit is life and peace. The mind governed by the flesh is hostile to God. It does not submit to God's law, nor can it do so. And those who are in the realm of the flesh cannot please God. You, however, are not in the realm of the flesh, but are in the realm of the Spirit. If indeed the Spirit of God lives in you, and if anyone does not have the Spirit of Christ, they do not belong to Christ. But if Christ is in you, then even though your body is subject to death because of sin, the Spirit gives life because of righteousness. And if the Spirit of Him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, He who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of the Spirit that lives in you. And therefore, brothers and sisters, we have an obligation not to the flesh, but to live according to it. For if you live according to the flesh, you will die. But if by the Spirit you put to death the misdeeds of the body, you will live. And so, in summary, dying to the flesh and submitting to the Spirit is choosing life. And it's not that this is always easy, because being a slave to sin is actually way easier than being a slave to righteousness. And so we're acknowledging that we believe in what God has in store for us, and that we're trusting in His plans rather than our own. Dying to our selfishness and saying, Lord, let your kingdom come, let your will be done. Boldness is also connected with community and engagement. And so one thought I had when I was thinking about community was, how many of you guys have ever been to a lake or a river where you have to jump in the water from like a big rock or a cliff? Raise your hand. Yeah, a lot of people. So now, of those who raised their hand, how many of you would you say made the jump after someone gave you a countdown? 3, 2, 1. How many of you guys, again, need the countdown, the encouragement? I mean, all the time. And so how much easier is it for us to boldly do something when we're, one, around community, and two, having the encouragement to jump in?
Good.
In my life, I take a lot of ice baths, or I used to. There's some science behind it that I kind of avoid them now. But when I would take ice baths, I would always picture myself as being like on the Titanic, and the boat's is going down, and then there's icy waters below, and I'm counting down, I'm like, all right, 3, 2, 1, I'm jumping in. And then I noticed a funny thing too. How much easier is it to take an ice bath when you're huddled around like sardines with like 4 or 5 other teammates in the tub? I mean, it was like time just passes, you're talking, you're chilling, and it's so much easier to have community around you when things are uncomfortable. That's just how we're supposed to live, is with each other in community. And so Paul says in Ephesians 6:19, it says, pray for me too. Ask God to give me the right words so I can boldly explain God's mysterious plan that the good news is for Jews and Gentiles alike. And so he recognizes that he needs to ask for boldness, but he also recognizes he needs the support of the believers around him. And so we're going to recap that. Recapping boldness. The first thing we see is that boldness includes risks. It's not easy. You're coming with the risk of jeopardizing friendships, the risk of embarrassment. So know that boldness comes with risks. We then see how we must rely on the Holy Spirit to empower us. Dying to our flesh, choosing to live life in the Spirit. Because that's what's true life. And then we see how boldness is connected with community and encouragement, and how it's contagious. As again, we talked about the ice bath, it's contagious. You get in there, other people get in there, it becomes warmer without the temperature changing. And lastly, we see how Paul asks for boldness, letting that become the desire of our hearts. For the Lord gives you the desires of your heart. And so wrapping up, you may be wondering, what does all this mean in today's society? How can we be bold? How can we apply this to our everyday life? And the thing is, everyone's situation is going to be different. Like for me as an athlete, I'm going to have some different conversations than some teachers, some nurses, some students. Whatever interest you're in, you're going to have different circumstances. So what are the constants that we're all going to face? I take you back to allowing your actions cause people to ask the question why. So that's the first thing you can do. Allow your actions to cause people to ask the question why. And then as you rely on the Holy Spirit to give you that boldness, because then you can express your faith. And remember, it's not us that's going to end up changing their heart. We're never going to be doing that on our own. That's the Spirit working through them. And so the encouragement you can take away is, man, this is not me. I'm just going to plant the seed.